The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not reflect the views of the streaming platforms, public access channels, the KittyRose lifestyle, or the program underwriters.
Tim's on my feet, stomping out the negativity. Everybody not a friend of me. Spread the love, still I move deliberately. Bully face on, but the smile be heavenly. Brooklyn girls, so they love the energy, love sincerity. So I take the liberty to take them on a journey lyrically. Through hallways and alleys.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Next Chapter, where we discuss shades of gray. I am your host, Minister Cat, aka KittyRose, and welcome back to another segment of our parenting series. I know I took a break for a little bit, but I'm back with some more informative information. But I'm gonna share something a little special, like I always do every week, which is my own personal developments or I don't know, lessons that I'm learning as I'm going through, one, life as an empty nester, but two, also navigating this space of raising adult children. So this segment or this topic of the week is going to be boundaries with adult children. Boundaries with adult children. So this is the setup. Let me give you two scenarios, right? I'm gonna go into what boundaries or the different types of boundaries, but I wanna give you a reason. I wanna tell you the reason why I decided to have this topic as the 8th segment in this parenting series. So I had a conversation with a girlfriend of mine last week, and they had came off of the holiday season, and she wasn't allowed to share any pictures of the family festivities on social media from any of her children. Now, mind you, she has like 5 or 6 kids, and almost everyone has children. So she's not only a super mom, but she's a grandmother to at least 10 grandchildren. And all of her family does not live in the same state or borough. So she may use social media, I'm not sure, to share photos or moments with other family members, or just as a proud grandmother wanting to show the world her family, or just wanting to share moments. Who knows? All I know is that the conversation we had is that she's not allowed to share pictures of her grandchildren on social media. Second scenario, my own personal one. I shared something on social media indirectly about my daughter. It wasn't really about my daughter. It was about me, but I used my daughter as an example to make a joke about me. Now, I shared this on a platform she's not even on, but it happened to get back to her anyway that I shared something personal about her life indirectly about me, right? Oh my goodness, it raised havoc in the house. I mean, she was not talking to me. She was done. Like, she was really on some, I don't know if I'm ever gonna share personal things with my mother again because of a fear that she may share it on social media. Now, mind you, I don't share everything on social media, but I understood her point, but I didn't, because just a couple of weeks ago, I shared her graduation pictures. That was fine. I shared her getting ready to graduate from college and the job offer she's got. That was fine. But I wasn't allowed to share, or not allowed, she was upset with something I shared that she necessarily didn't want people to know, even though it was already done and over with and back to normal, but was still enraged with me. And it got me to thinking about, well, did I cross a level of boundaries? Because years ago, she had already expressed to me, as my other children did, well, you know, your mission and your purpose is yours. Great, wonderful, kudos. But my purpose or my mission here is not the same as yours. So I don't need my life to be a topic of conversation because of your mission. So I respected that. And I've learned to be more mindful about the stuff I share on social media when it comes to my children, or even not just social media, conversations with my friends, conversations with family. I'm more mindful and careful about what I share when it comes to the business of my friends and my children. But like I said, it got me to thinking now that I have these adult children, and literally my daughter got mad to the point that she wasn't speaking to me, where it now created an argument with all of my, well, not all of my children, it started with 3, but my middle child stayed out of it. So my oldest and my youngest, who are the splitting image of me. My daughter's the best part of me, my son is the worst part of me. But these two, we got into a verbal on text argument. And in the verbal text argument, it got to the point of, it was like, F you, and then F you. To the point that now, even though my daughter and I are cool, my son and I are not. He just came to New York to spend the family time with us. And I was so happy because I love when my children are all around. I love them more than I love most people, or like most people. But my oldest son didn't spend any one-on-one time with me. And I felt a kind of way. So when I addressed it to my daughter, my son didn't spend any time. She was like, well, he's still mad. He's still angry. And it got me again to thinking, well, what boundaries did I cross to the point that my son, my adult son, has decided in these days where life is not guaranteed, that he is not going to talk, that he is not going to be close at the moment with me. So I wanted to dive into this topic today. I wanted to talk about the different types of boundaries. Boundaries are limits that define what behaviors are acceptable and how much others can influence us. Now I feel like, and probably most parents, well, I'm the mom, I'm the parent. And when I said F you to my children, the response was, well, then F you too. And my response was, you haven't earned the right to tell me F you. I've earned the right. But have I? So there's physical boundaries, there's emotional boundaries, there's time boundaries, there's spiritual boundaries, there are financial boundaries, there are cultural boundaries. Boundaries can apply to many types of relationships, including romantic, platonic, family, and work-based. They can help determine how much others can influence you, use your time and energy, and affect your emotions. They can help determine how much others can influence you, but this is key, use your time and energy and affect your emotions. So let's dive right in. My research gave me a couple of videos, and the 2 videos, we're gonna break them down in 2 parts because the information was very valuable in what they were sharing, and it definitely raised some eyebrows with me. So I'm hoping that they will raise some eyebrows with you. Let's take a look.
Conceptions about boundaries is that boundaries are about telling someone else what to do. A lot of people think boundaries are controlling, and that couldn't be farther from the truth. A boundary doesn't tell someone else what to do. It tells others the actions that I am willing to take to keep myself safe and healthy. So one of the examples I give in the book is if I have a friend who smokes cigarettes, I don't say to them, you shouldn't smoke. That's controlling. I shouldn't say to them, you shouldn't smoke in your own house. That has nothing to do with me. But what I can say is, I don't allow smoking in my house. That's a boundary that I can set around my own behavior. And that's a boundary I can hold. Meaning, if they try to come into the house with a lit cigarette, I can say, please wait outside until you're done smoking. So that's the difference between a boundary and an action that is controlling. In a boundary, I am taking responsibility for my own feelings and needs, and I'm communicating that limit clearly, extending an invitation for the other person to meet me in that limit so that our relationship gets better.
So that was simple. I'm gonna dive more into it, but I wanted you to get a gist of it, meaning that actions that I am willing to take. Okay, so are we crossing boundaries or actions that I am willing to take with the feelings of those around me. Does that make sense? Let's take a break.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Our back and forth. It always came back. Dad! You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
So I told you I was going to split that video up into 2 parts. I am not a liar. So we're going to go back to the video and then share your thoughts, or share our thoughts when we come back.
3 daughters and 1 son, and they're all adults, and all of them work for me. And we're always having this discussion about we supported in our family, but obviously how women are so often misrepresented or seen as aggressive or something if they assert themselves. So one of your opening paragraphs really caught my attention. So I want to read that quickly. It's the second paragraph on the first page. How you became the boundary lady. I love that. If you were to look at me today, this label would make total sense. Personality-wise, let's just say I'm not a people pleaser. To even the casual observer, I appear assertive, independent, and self-confident, both comfortable with conflict and direct about expressing my needs. That behavior, especially coming from a woman, sometimes evokes an accusation of selfishness and a few others I won't mention here, but you can probably imagine what they are. I'm not selfish, though, or any of those other descriptions you just envisaged. What I am is someone who takes her mental health, energetic capacity, and worth seriously, and does what needs to be done to protect them. That is amazing. And that's very important. And I think that really highlights why it's worthwhile, probably even for everyone, male and female, any gender, but to recognize that really is a huge problem. If a woman asserts herself, they're considered, as you say, all the unmentionable words and the mentionable ones.
Yes. There are a lot of ways in which women in particular, and then especially moms, have been conditioned not to have boundaries. Influences from the patriarchy and stereotypically rigid gender roles, religious influences, even diet culture, have all conditioned us to be small, to not have needs, to put everyone else's comfort and feelings above our own. As a mom, I am praised the most when I am selfless, when I have no self, when I am only existing for the good of my child. And then when we do advocate for our needs, we are called selfish. We are told we're too aggressive. We're told we're rude, or we're called some of those other names. So there's a lot of cultural unlearning that women in particular have to do around the subject of boundaries. And I talk about how my needs have value too. My feelings have value too. And I encourage women to not only put themselves on their own list, but you shouldn't be at the bottom. You should be at the top of your own darn list.
So I chose the second part of the video because I love the fact that she mentions unlearning, right? Unlearning, because I have been told by my children that I'm aggressive. I have been told by my children that I'm rude. And I don't see those traits, especially when people outside of the home are always telling me how welcoming and how caring and how loving and how supportive I am. So I don't get the whole I'm rude or aggressive, but I get it because I make myself as a mom always accessible, always available to you. So when I stand for something that you're doing that I don't like or that I need more of, then you take offense. Like, how dare you want something more from me as my mom when I am the child expecting everything that's been given thus far. So the whole reason why me and my son even got into a whole argument was because I was expressing not feeling well. I was expressing that my son had asked a question about, I needed to go to Jersey to pick up something from my father's house. If you've been following this journey, some of you might be aware that recently this summer I became reconnected with my father, who I've been estranged with for the last 5 years. So I've been going back and forth to Jersey, taking care of, his personal, medical, all those things that children do now they're taking care of their adult parents or senior parents or elderly parents. That's the word I wanted to use, elderly parents. So I said to my children, I gotta go to Jersey. And my son says, What's in Jersey? And my response was, you're so disconnected from my life. It's very disappointing. And that started the whole like, well, you're disconnected, you don't ask. And I tell you people, every time I talk to my children, I always ask about everything in their life. Whether you decide to share everything with your parents is your business. But if you have a parent that asks about everything, then you can't be mad that a parent doesn't know something that you haven't shared, even though they're always asking. So I'm always asking about my son's life. I even went down there to pray with my son and put hands on my son when I felt that he needed his mom. So now when I said to my children, you know what, can I have some mercy? Can I have some grace? I'm going through, a heartbreak. I'm going through menopause. Can you give some mercy and grace to me? The answer was not the response I wanted. So the same thing with my girlfriend who wanted to post her granddaughter going away to college, her daughter having a new baby. When she attempted to post, she saw the other mother of the father's post, and her daughter became angry. So to avoid her daughter not speaking to her, she deletes the pictures she puts up on social media. So my thing is like, because we've been so accommodating to our children, then our feelings now don't get respected or kind of get like put to the side, like we're not entitled to feel a kind of way. We're not entitled to have boundaries because we haven't had boundaries up until now that you think that as adult children, you should be able to talk to us any kind of way. And we feel like, well, as parents, no matter how old you are, we should be able to express how we feel even when we're wrong. Is that right? Is that right? I don't know. Let's go check out and see what our second video had to say about that, and we'll come back and discuss.
Wondering what to avoid now that your child is an adult, or maybe your relationship has become strained. Or maybe your child stopped speaking to you and you want to understand why. I'm a psychologist, and this video will help you understand the most common mistakes parents make with their adult children. Number 1, taking the relationship for granted. Family relationships are very close. When we call a friend family, it's to say that we feel super close to them, like family, and that they'll always be connected to us. But this doesn't mean that family relationships can't be broken beyond repair or that they can never fall apart. It doesn't mean that adult children have to put up with everything. Familiarity may breed contempt, and sometimes we end up treating the ones we're closest to the worst because we're taking the relationship for granted. Like never before, adult children are willing to cut ties with their parents if the relationship is toxic. So taking the presence and support of an adult child for granted, in the worst case, could cost you the relationship.
I don't think I take my children for granted, but I can see how I have. Because I think when you don't address your issues or your desires or your needs or your concerns, it can easily get discombobulated, right? So your children as adults are only responding to how you're responding to them. So was my son correct in his words to me? But was I? I think we both took advantage or took for granted that we would be okay. We could have an argument and we could say, I'm sorry, and it was fine. Because that's what happened. We text, I'm sorry, I misspoke. I thought everything was gravy. But when he came home, that was not the case. Now, even though he wasn't fighting, we weren't fighting, nothing was funky, like we were great. It was a beautiful time. But I didn't get any one-on-one time. And I definitely, I have 3 kids, so I have to spread it out. And I want time with each one of them. I'm making my business to make time with the ones who live in New York. So I definitely wanted some one-on-one time with the son who doesn't live here. But I can see how both of us taking the relationship for granted has now put us here. Let's go back and see what more that video had to say.
Number 2, defensiveness. Defensiveness means to be more concerned with protecting oneself than with what's going on in the adult child's inner world. So this means that whenever the adult child approaches the parent with some feedback, a request, or a desire to discuss something from the past, the parent responds with rationalizations, explanations, blame, or arguments like, "You had it so much better than I did." That may be true, but it doesn't mean that the child wasn't hurt or that their perspective isn't valid. Number 3, guilt tripping. This is when parents use guilt to try and get something from their adult child. Often this is more time with the child or grandchildren. The more a parent guilt trips their child for time spent apart, the more they'll say things like, "You're still alive," or "Finally you called back." And the less the child will be able to get in touch with their own desire to be with the parent. The guilt trip drives out the child's longing for contact. Number 4, criticizing the child's confidants. As we grow up, we rely less and less on our parents and start forming trusting bonds with others. And parents need to allow that to happen. It may be hard not to be the child's prime source of connection anymore, but growing children and adult children need to develop a healthy independence from their parents. If a parent criticizes the child's confidants, their best friends, spouses, therapists, it won't go well for the parent. It'll alienate the child. Number 5, not acting on feedback and requests. If an adult child has feedback or a request and the parent doesn't listen, or they listen but don't act on the request, that will strain the relationship. And this isn't to say that parents have to agree with everything or do everything their adult child wants. It's healthy for boundaries to be in place in everybody's life. But in connection to taking the relationship for granted, a common mistake parents make with their adult children is not taking their requests and feedback seriously.
Not taking their requests seriously. So there's obviously more points that this woman had to make, because the website I got this from is 10 common mistakes that parents make with their adult children. And I really found what she had to say informative. Her name is Dr. Maika Steinborn. Dr. Maika Steinborn. I really suggest you guys, I hope they put the link on the lower third so that you guys could check them out, check out that website and do some research for yourself, because I really found that the information she gave was very informative and hit home. 10 common mistakes that parents make with their adult children. Parent-adult-child relationships. So the things that stuck out to me, ooh, did y'all see my notes? Oh. So the things that stuck out to me was, before I go into the things that stuck out to me, how many of us do that guilt trip? Woo, child. I have definitely pulled the guilt trip card. Finally, you've called. That I've definitely done that. But let's get back to the video. So what stood out for me was the acknowledgement of, sometimes I guess we as parents can feel that their perspective is not valid, right? So I don't know what the reasons are that I'm not able to post pictures of my children, grandchildren, family members on social media. But maybe having the conversation with my child we can have some kind of understanding to, well, can I do this? Or can I do this? Is it okay that I do this? Maybe have the conversation rather than just not doing it at all and feeling like I'm scared to do something where I will alienate my child without really even understanding their perspective. And then the child kind of wanting some understanding to the parent without alienating how they feel. What also stood out to me was the other relationships that become more important, or I won't say important, that become more of the go-tos. And even though the video talked about not being negative about those people, I didn't get the negative part. I got just the idea that I'm not the closest confidant anymore. And you as a parent to these adult children have to find a way to be comfortable with that, because your adult children need to have healthy relationships. And in those healthy relationships, other people, they will get feedback from other than you who will become more present in their life. My daughter's best friend is her brother, my middle child, then her boyfriend. Then maybe me. No, I'm lying. Then her best friend from school. Then maybe me. And I'm probably fighting with a tug of war with her grandmother and then her father. So I'm literally like I'm not, I'm fourth. And I'm fighting between fourth and fifth on the list as people that my daughter will now come to. Does that mean that she's not gonna come to me? But at 21, those relationships that she's been able to develop may be different than the relationship she has with me. And I have to be okay with that and not feel like that's a personal against me, because it isn't. It's the change or the development or the evolution of the relationship of now parents having with their adult children. My daughter, my sons are not my best friends. Nor should they be. I shouldn't even be their friend. I can have a friend-like relationship, but we're not peers. And I think that that's sometimes where the confusion gets, that even when you have adult children, the boundaries of how do we now communicate, how do we now talk to each other in this different lane of understanding. Does that make sense? Let's go to another break. Have you ever thought about how you can make a change in your community using media? Well, guess what? You can. Because of public access, and it's given me a voice in the community, where last year I won the Free Speech Award at BRIC, to not only have a voice, but to make a difference in our community, where literally I get stopped in the street on a regular basis, where the people in the community say, I've seen you on television and you made a difference. I saw you on television and I was affected by what you said. I am your host of an award-winning television show right here in New York called The Next Chapter. I've been on air now for about 6 years, and I've learned so much, and I got my start right here at BronxNet. So how do I get to the control room, to the camera, or to your own set? We'll show you how to do that starting here in the classroom, and then we'll take you to the other steps on how to become a certified public access producer. Join us and become a part of the community of change by having a voice. So I think sometimes also that when we want to get our message clear, that it sounds like, or it feels like, that we're not allowing our adult children to share their perspective. We're not allowing their perspective to feel that it's valid. And that's another, I think, concern I have about this boundary conversation, which I believe we're going to have a part 2 about, because I think that boundaries need to be understood from the parent. I understand, I get it. But what happens when the children, to me, in my opinion, crosses the lines by now trying to almost adult me as the parent? So there is going to be a part 2 to this conversation, because this conversation really was taking accountability. Was taking accountability that in our indirect way of overstepping, that sometimes the best way for everyone to protect their peace is to step away. But in the step away, it's a hurtful time, because tomorrow's not promised. So I don't want there to be any time that my children are not speaking to me, that I am not speaking to my children. That's why as soon as the argument happened and I said what I said, right away I apologized, because I couldn't let days fester. My spirit wouldn't allow it. My spirit won't allow it. The next day before I left the house, I had to talk to my daughter, because I had to come to some type of resolution. And my daughter's reasons for her feeling was valid, because my daughter's reasons wasn't even about the post. My daughter was like, yo, my whole life, you go from 0 to 10. When do we get to say enough is enough? You talking about you want mercy and grace and understanding because you're going through menopause, but how about at 21, at 27, at 29, my whole life, when you get upset about something, it doesn't matter what it is. You go from 0 to 10. And my thing was, okay, and? But, okay, I get it. That's a problem. And that's my Jesus moment. Woo! Wait. Before we get to Jesus moment, do we have another? Yes, we do. Okay, we don't. We have it afterwards. But that was my Jesus moment. My Jesus moment was how to humble yourself. How to humble yourself. Because there are times that in order for you really to get what you want, you got to take a piece of that humble pie and the baby steps, and your children still understanding your perspective. They couldn't understand my perspective yet. You know why? Because they're not parents. But that doesn't mean that I can't understand their perspective as adults. Does that make sense? And I think that's where the boundaries come in. Us understanding, what was it told to us in the beginning, our first video? Actions that I am willing to take based on understanding of one's point of view. If I never have the conversation with how I treat them or how they feel about how I treat them, then I'm going to just go on and keep on doing what I'm doing. And eventually, guess what? What was the last video? They may not come around as often. They may not call as often. When they visit, they may not spend that one-on-one time with you. I'm laughing, but that broke my heart. Because I yearn for these moments. And I don't see my son often because he doesn't live in New York. So I was hoping that we would go on a date, we would go have breakfast, like watch a movie. And I got none of that. None of it. And it was great, the flip side, because then he spent more time with his siblings. And that is truly, truly, truly important. That bonding time is more important almost than the bonding time with me. But that doesn't mean that I was not sad. But I also had to realize that I played a part in that. And I just hoped and assumed that he would have been all right by now. Because what did the first video say? We take those relationships for granted. So there's going to be a part 2. There's going to be a part 2 because I have a lot more to say about this matter, but I want to get to our Did You Know? Because our Did You Know is about how to apologize to your adult children. So when we come back from our last break of the night, we'll come back to Did You Know? Let's take it away.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
Hey there, it's Miss KittyRose from The Next Chapter over here at BronxNet. You got a show idea or content to share that can make waves in our community? Ever find yourself stuck on what to do next? How to promote, market, or share your message effectively? Well, I've got fantastic news for you. Join me for an exclusive marketing workshop. Learn how to strategize with current market trends that creates content that truly shines. Head to bronxnet.org, click on the Join Us tab, and then select Education to sign up for my class today. Seats are limited, so don't miss out. I'm here to help you get the most of your digital content. Sign up now. I'll see you there.
Yeah, I know, but just look at that. It's so sad.
Parents, who among us hasn't inadvertently or in anger offended a grown child? Maybe we've been unfairly critical even when we were being honest about something major as their lifestyle. Feelings get hurt, emotional buttons may be pushed, buttons that hark back to childhood wounds. And suddenly, the innocent thing we said has been blown up and out of proportion. All of which is to say that whether the offending remark or action is our fault or not, an apology has the power to soothe wounds, repair harm, and mend relationships. So this can be accomplished by an apology delivered correctly. So this is the did you know, did you know, did you know, did you know, okay? Did you know? Should parents or how can parents correctly apologize to their adult children? When I was online, I came up with 4 tips for delivering an I'm sorry that might actually meet its repair harm objective. So 1, offer the apology straight up with no but attached to it. I'm sorry, but you, I'm sorry, however. A but is an excuse that counters the sincerity of the message. No explanations are required or even desired. Number 2, don't ask to be forgiven for your trespass. Accept what it is. It's up to the offended party to decide whether and when they want to forgive. Woo, that was a hard one. The experts say that it's not your place to tell anyone to forgive or not forgive. Woof. Play that one back. I want to read that again. Because that was something. The experts say that it's not your place to tell anyone to forgive or not forgive. Woo! Okay. I'm soaking that in. I'm soaking that in. I'm soaking that in. Number 3, the focus of the apology should be on what you've said or done and not your child's reactions to it. I'm sorry you feel that way suggests that you aren't really sorry at all. I've said that. I definitely have said, I'm sorry you feel that way. But are we really taking ownership of the apology? Number 4, the last one. Allow the offended party to vent. My daughter said, he's in his feelings and, he's going to be there until he's not. And of course, for me, I'm like, well, shoot, life ain't guaranteed tomorrow. Let's fix whatever's wrong now. But he has to not only vent about his feelings, but he has to go through his own time of when it's acceptable to accept me back into the fold. It's called non-defensive listening. When we sit and allow them to just share how they feel. We have to resist the temptation to refute, to argue over, or even correct their version of whatever happened. Let's roll that back. Let's play that again, because I know we have done that. Resist the temptation to refute, argue, or correct whatever their version of whatever happened. Those are not easy tasks to do, because we honestly do feel like as a parent, we're in the right. It doesn't matter. Like I said to my children in the argument, when my son cursed to me, I told him at 50, I literally at 50 just had a conversation where I raised my voice at my biological mother. Now, over the years, has she done things that make me want to yell at her and curse her out? Of course. But I always refrained because I always was taught, whether it was right or wrong, that, there's a pecking order to things. There's a a way that you talk to adults, seniors, elders, no matter what. But in this day and age, that is not the case. We are no longer living in the silence of, well, whatever goes, goes. That's why we have to now, in this day and age, learn how to take a piece of that humble pie and acknowledge when we are in the wrong. And the whole argument wasn't even about my kids. I was sad and depressed because of some other stuff that I didn't deal with and confront. They had no idea what I was upset about, but I put it on them. So how unfair is that? That we come into a situation as a parent, something as basic. Like I came into the text with them saying, I'm not sure if I want to do family time, Thanksgiving. I'm not feeling a kind of way. I'm kind of sad. And the reaction was, well, why? I said, well, my daughter's not talking to me, and, I'm sad about this is not going right and this is not going wrong. And because, again, the feedback I was getting wasn't one that I wanted, then I reacted because of them not even knowing really why I was upset. And it escalated. So even though I could be all puffed up and say they're not deserving of an apology, they actually are deserving of apology because I was wrong in where I was addressing them, and that's how the argument actually escalated. So even though I might have not want to humble myself to apologize, it was my place to humble myself and apologize. And I don't even know if I really apologized for real. After going over these 4 pointers, did I really do all those things? Or did I simplify it with a text? Did I take him for granted by assuming that because he came home for the holidays that we were good? Did I allow him to vent? Did I allow him to apologize when and if he wanted to? I don't think I did. So as we continue these parenting conversations, these parenting talks, it's essential that we go to the Facebook group page so that we could have these conversations together. because we're all still learning, and we really be thinking we know what we're doing. You can't tell me I was wrong. You can't tell me that they weren't wrong. But in reality, in prayer, in the afterthought, we were all wrong, but I was a little bit more wrong than they were. And am I at a place in my life that I can accept that and receive that? If the relationship is important to me. And I'm gonna tell you folks, it is. How do you feel about the relationships in your life? How are your parents, are your children currently talking to you? Did they come home for the holidays? Do they prefer to talk to other people than you? Have the relationship become so estranged because of the part that you play in not understanding that they are now adults? The best way for us to have this conversation outside of the TV screen is by joining the Facebook group page and sharing your story and sharing your story and sharing your story. And then as a community, we get to build, we get to uplift, we get to help each other. Because guess what? For 2025, that's what we're doing. For 2025, we are going to be doing studio shows of community engagement. These community engagements will allow the forum where adult children and parents can now have like a referee, you know what I'm saying? Like almost in the ring. And the referee will be our family therapist. Quinnell's check-ins will be joining us, Quinnell Hickman, and my therapist, Sister Dion. They will be here in the studio in February. Why I chose February? I chose February because February is Black History Month. And I want to start to change the narrative of Black families. I want to change the narrative of families in general, but I'm going to start with Black families because I am a Black family, and parenting, life, our relationship with my children are important to me. And all of the parents that I know, it's important to them. I don't have one parent friend who does not want to have a relationship with their children. Now, sometimes we don't like our adult children. But we're never at a point, at least the friends I know, that we're like, you know what, bump them. Even when I said F you to my children, I hated it as soon as it came out because I knew that that's not what I meant. Anyone and everyone who knows me knows that the real that I love in my life are my children. I like folks. But the people I like the most are that's why Family Day was so dope for me. Family Day was so dope for me because all my babies was home and I had a bonus. My husband's children was also at my home for the holidays. And close up on the camera, or should I walk up there and go like that? Close up to the camera. Guess what? My husband came upstairs. My husband has not been in the apartment, in the home that we shared since we ended our relationship in 2005. And he came up for a minute and had a plate. But what was more important than him coming up was the fact that he allowed his children, his two younger boys that are not mine, to join us for the holidays. Now, why did this happen? Because of my children. My middle children know that this holiday is one of the most important things to me. Not the holiday. I don't mess with Thanksgiving. I call it Family Day. But on Family Day, I'm like a kid in a candy store. It's like my Christmas. You know what I'm saying? I just freaking love it. And they know it's about me. It's all about being with mom, right? So if they got girlfriends or boyfriends, they know that they got to come to their mother's house for Thanksgiving. Their father gets Christmas, I get Thanksgiving. It does not matter. For almost 20 years now, I get Thanksgiving, right? But my children, my middle children, knew that their siblings that are not mine are going through a trying, difficult time at the moment. And they wanted them to enjoy the festivities of how we get down as a family. So they invited their siblings to come. I was down with that, but their father allowed them to come. But what I really loved more about the whole idea was that my kids didn't think about how I felt. They did, but they were more important about thinking about how their siblings felt and not wanting their siblings to be unhappy on this day. And guess what? Their siblings came over and we had a good old time. It's so crazy. We did karaoke. I don't know why I think I sing better in the shower. I really be ready for karaoke, but every time I do karaoke, I really don't sound that good. But I tell you folks, when I sing every morning in the shower, I sound like Diana. I don't know what happens at karaoke, but anyway, I digress. So it was a beautiful feeling to be around the children that my husband and I have created together. And now they're all pretty much in that adult stage. So now we're both in this interesting phase where now we can help each other if we're finally friends, where we can help each other navigate in this now next series of raising our adult children together. Because you know what? We didn't do too bad with them. We got them here. Woo! And that's my beef with my oldest boy. Sidebar. Matter of fact, it's not my beef with my oldest son. My beef with people in general. We want to complain about everything that's been done before us, right? This happened to me in my childhood. This happened to me when I was a teenager. My mother did this. My father did this. But guess what? With all of that stuff, how about you here? Right now, today. So instead of thinking about all the bad stuff that happened, why not start thinking about all the good stuff that can now happen? Be present in today. And that's why this parenting series is so important to me. I think it's important for us to be present in today because a lot of parents want to have active relationships with their children, adult children, and don't. And don't because the adult children can't tolerate you for too long. The adult children just stops in to do their part as a kid, to check on you, but you annoy them. Because you always got something negative to say, or you got something to say about their partners or the person that they choose to be friends with. So eventually, they begin to become more involved in their own lives. Because granted, their lives are busy once they become adults. Isn't your life busy as an adult? So how would you not think that your adult child would have a busy, functional, active life if you as an adult parent has a functioning, active, busy life? So the same way that you make time to spend with your children, they have to make time to want to spend with you. And if you don't make them feel like they're respected or that their feelings are valid, then how about they're not going to want to spend time with you? But adult children, if you make your parent feel like their feelings are not valid, you could be mad at me. You could be upset with me. You could tell me that you want me to direct this way, but give me some kind of understanding so that I can move in a way that's understanding and acceptable for me. You're going to tell me I just can't do something? How is that fair? You're going to tell me that if I do something, then you're not going to come over, or you're not going to see me, or you're not going to allow the grandchildren to come over? How is that fair? How is that fair when you're asking me to respect how you feel, but you take no consideration on how I feel as the grandparent or the parent to you as an adult? Yes, I agree. I should take into consideration what I've done or haven't done as a parent. But how about you take into consideration what I have done as a parent? So what I have done as a parent, again, does not, in my opinion, and I'm going to stand 10 toes on this, in my opinion, no matter how aggressive I get, at the end of the day, you know I come from a place of love. I don't care how aggressive your parents get. If you have a solid relationship with your parent, if you have a good relationship with your parent, then you know that that parent comes from a place of love. So you're going to dangle, you're going to punish them by not hanging out with them, by not coming around because they're not doing what you want them to do? That sounds a little backwards to me. And that's why I said there has to be a part 2 to this conversation. Because I feel like the same way that your boundaries has to be respected as adult children, I feel like that doesn't mean that now I become this yes mom. Well, I'm too scared to hurt your feelings. I'm too scared to tell you how I feel. So I'm now gonna be quiet just so that you can continue to come over and call me and talk to me. Nah, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. If I have to respect how you feel, and not if I have to, I want to respect how you feel. But I demand the same thing. So, do you demand it as a parent? The best way for us as a community to do this and discuss it is to follow, like, and share. Follow, so you know what's going on. Like, so I can get those numbers, and share so that other people can know what's going on and join in this conversation. How do you do that? Go to the YouTube channel, go to the IG, go to my Facebook group page and join the conversation. Be involved, be active, help each other. Be the kind of parents we want to be to our children, so that not only are we the kind of parents we want to be to our children, but we set the example, we set the tone so that they too become better parents to their children, who eventually will become adult children as well. So, what did you think of that episode? Thank you for joining us and tuning in. Share, like I said, on our Facebook group. I'm here every Friday at 6 o'clock to discuss more of these series of talks that I want to help parents navigate raising adult children, as I am learning, navigating through this life now of raising adult children, and I need your help, the same way that I hope that I'm helping you all. As you guys saw, we got some upcoming classes here at BronxNet. Go to bronxnet.org for all the classes, but particularly mine, and sign up. And on that note, I think, are we good with that? Oh, we got 1 minute left. So in 1 minute, what can I do? I can tell all you guys to go and subscribe to my channel, because even though I'm here, BronxNet, Fridays at 6 o'clock, you can always go to the YouTube channel and just, do a binge. Do a binge and watch the next chapter where we discuss shades of gray. Why shades of gray? Because not everything is black and white. So, this was segment 9. We got next week's show. I don't know what I'm going to talk about yet, but in February, we got our first studio show right here at La Centrale. So join us. Follow us online. I'll see you next week. Once again, this is the next chapter where we discuss shades of gray. And I'm your host, Minister Cat, a.k.a. KittyRose, baby. Please follow my journey. That is KittyRose. Until next time, I love you guys. Please stay safe and stay focused out there. And to the parents of adult children, I got your back. I got your back. I love you all. Ow, the revolution has begun. Peace.
So I take hallways and alleys, dark days I carry, sharp pains and bellies, all days be heavy when you're